Tonight on The ReidOut.
People know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review.
If you're the President of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it.
Even by thinking about it. Two distinctly different approaches to two completely different situations. But why is Attorney General Merrick Garland moving so quickly to appoint a special counsel for the Biden documents when it took forever to do the same for Trump? Also tonight, the quote of the day comes from George Santos, who said with a straight face, "I've lived an honest life." And now there's new reporting on the multiple investigations into his questionable finances. And did you hear? Joe Biden's coming for your gas stove. No, not really. But 2 weeks into the new year, it's a top Republican priority to talk about it, along with ending so-called wokeness and CRT and counting fetuses in the HOV lanes. But we begin tonight just a little over 2 months since President Joe Biden's team discovered and immediately returned a small batch of classified documents from his time as vice president to the National Archives. We further learned today that at the end of December, the president's team discovered that additional documents were found at his Delaware home. Those, too, were immediately turned over. And today, we also had this announcement from Attorney General Merrick Garland.
I'm here today to announce the appointment of Robert Hur as a special counsel pursuant to Department of Justice regulations governing such matters. This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to making decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law.
When classified documents are found outside of government confines, there are always questions that need to be answered. But it sure does feel like the Attorney General was quick on the draw to make that announcement, or maybe it just feels that way, given the agonizing slowness of similar actions taken against Donald Trump. I mean, let's not forget, it took a year and a half following the negotiating, the begging, and the pleading by the National Archives and the DOJ to try to get back all the classified documents that Trump took. When he left the White House, before Garland appointed a special counsel to look into that. It started with the first request for documents by the National Archives back in May of 2021. They didn't get anything until January of last year, when, as we now know, classified documents were turned over, but for some reason, it took until November for it to result in a special counsel. And as I said, that was after multiple attempts by the Archives and the DOJ to retrieve them, numerous subpoenas, and even a court-ordered FBI search of Mar-a-Lago. It sure makes you wonder why the Justice Department appears to be handling these two presidents so differently. One reason could be because they think they could be heading toward a prosecution of Trump and want to be careful and do their due diligence before proceeding against a former president. There is reporting from the New York Times that some investigators on the special counsel's team believe the initial charging decisions against Trump will involve his mishandling of these documents and could come as early as this summer. Or is it something else? Perhaps having something to do with these people.
Get that motherfucker out of there! Take him out!
The leaders of one of these groups, the Proud Boys, are currently on trial for seditious conspiracy, among other charges. That trial began today, and we will have more on that later in the show. It's one of a number of right-wing armed militia groups who have sworn allegiance to Trump and have demonstrated, not only at the Capitol, but in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona, that they are more than willing to get violent at a moment's notice if they don't get their way or if Trump doesn't get his. The DOJ knows this movement on the right is a violent one that, according to FBI Director Christopher Wray, makes up the bulk of domestic terrorist threats. So in this case, you're not just dealing with a former president. You're dealing with a violent right-wing movement disguised as a political party. Joining me now is Jen Psaki, MSNBC host and former White House press secretary, and my friend and colleague. It's good to have you in the building and as part of this network. But I have to ask you this because this is what has been bugging me about the situation.
A lot of things are bugging me.
Well, I'm going to let you explain. I want you to explain how this really works. Yeah. But with Trump, it literally has been a 2-year saga of begging and pleading and begging and pleading. With Biden, there's a special counsel like in a hot minute. And it does make me wonder if at some level the Department of Justice fears Trump's base and fears the violent potential repercussions, January 6th style, of just investigating him for crimes.
That may be, but I also think that they look to history a lot, and Merrick Garland is very, very careful about trying to avoid even the optics of politics, right? So naming a special counsel in this case means he is treating them, at least pursuing to investigate and look into these cases, equally. No president above the law, right? There's lots of reasons for that, and I know you have lots of legal experts who will explain that.
Yeah.
I don't think, no one wants a special counsel. I mean, you don't go into a year before you may run for president and think, I want a special counsel this year. No one wants that. But I think what you've seen from the White House is a projection, without getting specific, and that is hard on the public front, of confidence that this was likely sloppy staff work during a transition, and that they feel very open to having the special counsel look into this. Again, not what you want, but it may end up over the long term, even with short-term pain, being to their benefit.
Well, let me play Kevin McCarthy, because, of course, the right has been enjoying the both sidesiness of it. Here's Kevin McCarthy.
Watch what is happening right now with the President of the United States. Not once, but now we're finding in 2 different locations classified information just out there in the open. Here's an individual that's been in office for more than 40 years. Here's an individual that sat on 60 Minutes that was so concerned about President Trump's documents locked in behind, and now we find it just as a vice president, keeping it for years out in the open in different locations.
When he tries to sound sincere and authoritative, it actually just makes me laugh. But, you know, for those who see it just on its surface and say these 2 things seem the same, these are very different things, but I'm going to leave it to you to explain how.
Yes, very different. One, Donald Trump, by many reports, asked for documents that were classified to be put in boxes and removed from the White House, knowingly, okay? There is intent right
Including
there.
nuclear secrets.
Including, yes, exactly, reportedly nuclear secrets. Then, when the archives looked for those documents, he did not return them. The FBI issued a subpoena. He defied the subpoena. We still have no idea what those documents are. We don't know what he's done with them, who he shared them with. And the photo evidence we've all seen, that amazing photo, shows that he did not take good care of those documents. So many people could have seen them. On the other side, Joe Biden has said he didn't know the documents were there. They could have been in boxes, and we'll find this through the process. And neither
did the National Archives, by the way.
Neither
they
did the National
go looking for them.
No one was looking for them.
Okay.
So these were in boxes. As soon as they learned, they called the National Archives. The National Archives referred to the Department of Justice, and they have been very transparent about that. Very, very different circumstances.
And just explain, because you have been a part of multiple administrations, so you know how this works. When a vice president, in this case, this was when now President Biden was Vice President Biden under President Obama, a great trigger for the right, by the way. Whether it's a vice president moving out of office or president moving out of office, what's the process of getting their things and separating their things from our things, from the American people?
Yes, exactly. I've been a part of lots of transitions.
Yes.
It is a very hectic time for a lot of reasons. One being staff start to depart. Staff leave not on the last day. Most don't leave on the last day. And you are trying to pack up 8 years, in the case of then Vice President Biden, of papers and work, while also, transitioning with the new team that's coming in and unwinding all of your pursuits while you were in office. So it is a very, very hectic time. That job is typically done by staff, not the national security head. They don't have the time to do that. It's done at a staff level. They're dumping documents into boxes and moving them out of the building.
And is there a national security review of the boxes before they get moved?
In my experience, there is no process where the boxes are then gone through with every box that leaves the building.
Sure.
Now, because I'm a believer that public servants of whatever party do it for the right reasons, they typically follow what you're supposed to do. Right? You put classified documents away. You don't take documents you shouldn't take with you. But there's also a hectic nature of a transition with literally hundreds of thousands of documents that need to be filed, moved, archived, and that is what happens during that period of time.
It's important to have that explanation in that context. Jen Psaki, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Always
Joy.
love having you on. All right.